Saturday Night Live with Amy Schumer is over, but we're just getting started here on the SNL post-show recap on postshowrecaps.com. And now here are the two guys who are here to tell you, yes, you can drink on those antibiotics. I am Rob Cesternino. Here's Rich Tackenberg. Rich, how are you?
I am good. I'm excited. I feel like SNL came out of public beta, and we had our first real live solid SNL this week.
Yes, very exciting. Amy Schumer was the host, and a lot of excitement around this episode, and looking forward to breaking it all down with you on the middle episode. This is the meat of the new SNL sandwich in between last week's episode with Miley Cyrus and next week's episode with Tracy Morgan.
Yep. I think this is probably going to be the highlight of the October shows as far as content goes. So excited to get into it and talk all about it.
Good. So just give me your big picture talking about this past episode. It sounds like you are very high on the Amy Schumer episode.
Yeah, there was a lot that I liked about it. And I'd say sort of post-update, we fell into a, very legitimate sort of lull for a bit of it. But for most of it, I really liked it. I thought very interesting, Amy Schumer, not only a great stand-up comic, but as most people know her from Inside Amy Schumer, she is an executive producer and star of a sketch comedy show. So you're bringing one sketch comedy sensibility to a very different sketch comedy sensibility. And I think what we saw here was a lot of live sketches that were sort of weird, sort of just premises that just sort of followed. There wasn't sort of a theme to it. There wasn't necessarily a big sort of message to it. It was just a lot of odd situations that we just sort of followed where they would lead. And I thought it created a very fun, very different, atypical SNL, probably closer to older SNL episodes than current. So I really liked it. I thought there was a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Okay, so we are here live recording this on blab.im. We are going to be able to take your questions here in the chat room as you're following along. Plus, you can tag your questions in the chat room, do /Q to tag a question, and we will try to answer as many as we can. And who knows, we could even take your questions live at the end of the show if you're so inclined. And then also we'll be hearing from James Keese to talk about The Weeknd as the musical act here on the SNL recap. All right, Rich, let's start off with this cold open. It's the return of the Fox and Friends cold open. And I know you're smiling because it means more wacky Bobby Moynihan. Tell me, what did you think of the return of the Fox and Friends?
Well, it's interesting, first off, that, we think of it as an old classic SNL sketch, but we didn't see Fox and Friends at all in season 40. The last time we saw this was in season 39 with Anna Kendrick. So it's really had been put to bed for a bit. I think what we saw in this sort of the evolution of Fox and Friends, I'm not saying anything I haven't said years ago, is we've really moved away from making fun of the Republican right of Fox and Friends. And we had a couple of jokes about how, like, Planned Parenthood is selling baby parts on Snapchat, and we've really moved away from that, and it's much more about the Brian Kilmeade character just being dumb, and we're just really all of the sort of political things for the most part were set up to Bobby Moynihan just saying very dumb stuff, and also, as we've talked about in the past, what used to be a fun little tag at the end, which were the corrections, really has become all of America is watching this sketch with mild amusement. We're all waiting for the corrections. So, as I think this was a very solid cold open. I like the energy of it. I thought we had a lot of fun jokes that Bobby Moynihan had as Brian Kilmeade, which I don't think is in any way like the real Brian Kilmeade is almost just this fake character they've created. So a lot of fun here. The sort of our appearances of topical people. Again, I'm so unplugged from the real current events that I didn't know who these people were. So definitely amusing in that, but I don't know that it meant much to me.
Rich, did they always have Vanessa Bayer as the woman in this sketch? Because Fox and Friends had hired Elizabeth Hasselbeck probably since the last time they did this. Was it always Vanessa Bayer, and was she just playing a different woman and now she's playing Elizabeth Hasselbeck?
Yeah, I think we may have talked about this. I'm fairly positive that in season 39, it was already Elizabeth Hasselbeck. What I liked about it is it was always Vanessa Bayer playing the woman that predated Elizabeth Hasselbeck. And in changing characters, they changed nothing about Vanessa Bayer. It's like the same wig, it's the same outfits, it's the same tone. They just literally changed nothing, which I think was the great meta joke of Elizabeth Hasselbeck coming in to replace, I think it was Gretchen Carlson. So that always makes me laugh. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that, as you are, I'm a little bit disconnected from the specific things that they were talking about in the sketch, so I really can't weigh in on the Pete Davidson character as Jason Chaffetz from Utah and whether that was an accurate depiction. I did Google a picture of him and said, oh, I guess. And then
good enough, yeah.
And I'm not even sure if the person that Kate McKinnon was playing was a real person or not, so I can't really weigh in on the topicality of this sketch. But in terms of the jokes at the end, I know you always pay close attention to this. What were some of the standouts?
And I will say, as often as this happens, I thought that it sometimes starts out a little bit sort of like, okay. And then by the end, I'm just laughing so hard. We started off, iPads are not just for women. I like that there are no emoji for illegal immigrants. So that was funny. I like that Pac-Man fever did not kill 400,000 children in the 80s. Jewish people do exist. I'm looking at a couple more. I like Charles Schultz did not die of a peanuts allergy. John Stamos isn't the Greek god of yogurt. It just absolutely made me laugh so hard. Donald Trump has no plans to deport Speedy Gonzalez. Also very funny.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's very funny. Muslims are allowed to be girls. I thought was cute. King Cobras are not elected. And my favorite at the end was an IUD does not explode inside of a woman. I thought that was very funny. So overall, just again, very, very, very fun. And, to the question that Johnny D asked us on Twitter, he asked us, is it just me or did the Fox News apology list scroll a lot slower during the cold open? Absolutely right, Johnny. This is a thing this thing used to fly by as a fun Easter egg for people with DVRs, and it's now become the focus. It's definitely slower so that people watching it can sort of catch it. So this was generally really fun, and big points to the Live from New York at Saturday night. You got, the three of them together screaming with just joy in their heads, and it was just really fun.
And then we've talked about this a lot before in the cold opens, that Kate McKinnon is always the closer in the cold open. You always have her as like the final person that you bring on, right? You don't have her at the start of the sketch, but you have her come on like 3/4 of the way through, and then she brings it home, and she was really great energy. Rich, we talked about it so much in season 40, but the introductions from Daryl Hammond, some people said that they were surprised we didn't address it last week. Did you notice any wholesale changes from the season 40 intro to the season 41 intro?
No, I mean, I didn't bring it up last week because there's really nothing to say. Unfortunately, this is the Daryl Hammond era. We're doing it the Daryl Hammond way. I just desperately miss the old Don Pardo. We also didn't talk about the documentary that had aired beforehand last week, which I don't know that we need to cover, but just in hearing some of the Daryl of the Don Pardo openings of years past, it made me long for somebody giving it that kind of bravado and just full out yelling. So I definitely miss it.
Okay, so let's talk about this big monologue from Amy Schumer. She comes out with the handheld microphone. She's going to do some stand-up, and she does a really fun set, I thought. What'd you think of the Amy Schumer stand-up monologue?
A monologue. I mean, I don't know, A plus monologue. I thought it was great. She came out very nervous, which at first I was like, why would Amy Schumer be nervous? She's fantastic. But then I thought about it and you go, Amy Schumer is known as sort of a very popular stand-up right now, but I would bet most people don't actually know her from stand-up comedy. Most people would know her from her sketch show Inside Amy Schumer, from talk shows, and then obviously from the big movie Trainwreck. So I think for most of America, this was really her sort of first crack at just classic stand-up comedy, other than a Comedy Central half hour here or 5 minutes there. So it was interesting to see that she was nervous, but I thought it was great. I thought she did a great job. Really funny stuff. Once she started to get comfortable, I think by the time we got to washing the baby, her niece, I think she was really having a lot of fun. I thought she did a great job.
In terms of the movie Trainwreck from over the summer, I didn't see it. Did you thumbs up for Trainwreck?
No, 2 thumbs up.
Two thumbs up.
Two, if I can throw in a couple of 2.5 thumbs up. Very funny. Probably my wife and I's favorite movie of the season. It was just really fun, and a lot of SNL alumni and stars in it, which we will be talking about in a moment. But just really fun the whole way through.
Okay. She talked about the Kardashians. She talked about washing the baby. She met Hillary Clinton. Did you think that story was apocryphal, or was that inaccurate? Do you think that was the real story of meeting Hillary Clinton?
I'm going to guess, based on generally comedians aren't going to fabricate setup lines about real people just to get to a punchline. So I'm guessing it was. I thought it was interesting. One of her only ad libs in the monologue was that she was sort of discouraged about the amount of applause Hillary got at a mention. I thought that was interesting. I think we'll talk about politics a little bit when we get the Weekend Update. I did love with the Kardashians when she referred to them. She said they take the faces they were born with as late suggestions. I thought that was very funny, and the Chloe bit was very funny. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there. The whole Bradley Cooper chunk was great. It was long. I'm going to take a total stab in the dark and say that my guess is that when she was wrapping up Bradley Cooper, she brought it back to the very beginning by saying, "I guess it is." Like she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm engaged to Bradley Cooper. I guess it is a good time to be a woman in Hollywood." And it didn't get a big laugh. And I think that she, my guess is that she then wung it and decided to do another piece about being hacked and the Googling jokes as more bits from her stand-up comedy that I think she thought, oh, I didn't get the big laugh, so I'm going to add a little something and get a couple more laughs on my way out. So maybe a little bit longer than we previously would have planned. But overall, just very funny. Humberto had said, I think on Twitter, was this one of the best monologues in years? I agree. I thought it was great. I mean, I love the years. Well, I think that, stand-up comedy monologues are always going to be better than the actress singing or taking questions from the audience. I thought, because Louis C.K. and Chris Rock are such pros, they're sort of pushing the envelope, where Amy, I feel like, was just there to do a great set. And so I think that net, I probably laughed more at Amy's than I did at Louis' last year. Although all good. I mean, this is sort of degrees of who likes what the most. This I thought it was all very good.
Yeah, I don't want to give off the sense that I didn't like it. I just don't want to be overly hyperbolic.
I thought it was very funny. She set a great tone. And I think when she comes back to host and I can guarantee she will, just like Louis C.K. was the second time, he'll be much less nervous. Generally, you see the transition, whether it's Louis C.K. or Kevin Hart or Chris Rock. Eventually, that they're comfortable when they lose the handheld mic during the monologue and just do it straight. When they're out of there, they're much more comfortable doing their non-stand-up comedy posture with the mic.
Okay. Then, of course, as you mentioned, we use up a lot of time in the monologue. So no going to commercial bit there. But we come back with this segment on the airplane, which was quite a production piece because we really had a lot going on.
Big set piece. There were fans, there were moving props, there was smoke. They've really put a lot into this. The first no surprise of the episode is that Vanessa Bayer, who was not a large part of Trainwreck, but very critical and was in many scenes with Amy Schumer. So obviously they're close, is going to sort of kick off, the two of them together kicking off a sketch. So, which was also, I thought, really fun.
I also want to just encourage the live audience as we go along. If you have questions about particular sketches, then post them as we go through, and we'll try to get to them as we talk about everything. So in terms of the Delta flight attendants, it really takes a turn. We start off with the Spice Girls musical number, and then Vanessa Bayer ends up bumping into the door and ends up flying outside the plane. And then returns back into the plane and wants to continue the musical number.
Yeah, I thought this was super funny. As I said sort of at the beginning, this is sort of the example of the prototypical sketch where it wasn't about a wacky character. It wasn't about a very high concept point that we're trying to make about something. It was just this bizarre, the door that kept opening up and then them still wanting to sort of, get back to the cheesy song that they had done beforehand. Really fun performance. I thought Vanessa Bayer played it at 11. It was really funny when she's like, I swallowed so much air. I thought that was very funny. And then when the same thing happens to Amy Schumer and she like pushes her away and then Amy finally comes back, and I thought that was funny. She was like, I was out there for a full year. Everything about that was very funny. Although I will say MVP for the sort of pop in was definitely Taron Killam as Brian. Was just his scream when she first was outside was so funny.
Well, yeah, especially when they sort of beat him up, like after she got back into the plane, that he comes back over. Get away, useless Mark!
You did nothing. You did nothing.
And then again, when it happened the second time, then it was very funny to see his reactions of again like doing nothing.
Yes, yeah. So, no point to the sketch, and who cares? Very funny, very silly ending. Great production value, great performances by the two friends. Just really funny. I really like this a lot. I thought this was really funny.
Couple other quick things. I liked Keenan as the passenger. He did a good job, but like he was really into the song as it was playing. I will say that I feel like a little bit of a lack of an ending on this. I know it was sort of a wacky thing, but I felt like they just didn't know how to get out of it after all that.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of happens when you're creating a sketch that's not necessarily framed around something, where you're just sort of following the funny, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's sometimes hard to come up with a button because it's not going to be a resolution. It's just going to be something that is funny to sort of end with. So we had Taron Killam sort of hitting that. So I thought that was interesting. Another question from the group, Coach asked us, is SNL having a problem keeping up with the times? Last week was When Harry Met Sally. This week was the Spice Girls. I think there is something to that. I don't think, I mean, Amy is in her 30s. She's probably not old enough to remember when Harry Spice Girls. I don't know how old she would have been, but this show is not written by millennials, so it's not going to be that. I thought it was all very funny,
but I felt like that. I've read that comment too from Justin, and he touches on something, but I don't think it was necessarily supposed to be something that was super contemporary. I thought it was supposed to be like that, these are women in their 30s and they're doing something that does feel dated and is potentially cheesy that flight attendants would do on a flight. So I didn't really mind it there. Let me give you this question from Rojeezy in the chat room, who says, Rich, any chance is there that this wasn't the first sketch in dress, but it got laughs, so it got pushed to the front of the pack?
Great question. On a total guess, I'm going to say no, because there was so much production value involved in this. I bet that they had this set up well before 11:30, and they needed to not set this up during a commercial break, but they had it set up. So I bet that it always was where it was because of the physical logistics of live television, not because it was or wasn't the funniest sketch. But I don't know. That's my assumption.
Okay, let's talk about the next sketch, which is the Hot for Teacher film, where Amy Schumer plays a teacher and Kyle Mooney is the student, which is going to be waiting to get detention.
Yeah, this was a very meta sketch. I mean, basically, the premise of the sketch is that A.D. Bryant is a real high school teenager in a porn high school, but not on the set of a porn high school film, but within the actual high school. So very just sort of like okay, if you're going to like this sketch, you just got to go with it. Doesn't actually make any sense, but I thought it was very silly in a fun way. I just thought they did a very, like, you just have to go, okay, there's no possible way this makes sense, and let's just have fun. And I thought really because of 80 and Amy together, I thought the two of them did a great job. Vanessa Bayer was very good. I'd say Pete Davidson is this sketch would have been even funnier if it was a more realistic. I mean, if Taron Killam could have played someone that young, the sketch would have been even funnier. I thought Pete was sort of removed from it. He was playing the bad actor a little too much for my taste. But overall, I thought just really silly, really funny.
That was Pete Davidson or Kyle Mooney as the
I'm sorry,
guy?
Kyle Mooney. Sorry. Yeah.
You're right, though, about the in the world that this was in, because you had Amy Schumer, who was sort of like breaking the fourth wall of like talking about herself as like, how did you get this job? Where she says, "Oh, I was tricked as a teenager," and so she's talking as the actress of the woman in the porno film, but A.D. Bryant and then Vanessa Bayer, who I thought was really, really funny.
Very
in this
funny,
sketch
yeah.
also
Yeah.
come in as people who are like real world inhabitants and talking about almost like that they're going to the school in the set where the porno is being filmed. They're talking about the school, but it really looks like an office building.
Right.
So,
but no mention of cameras or directors or so we played this weird sort of meta world kind of thing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It was funny, and I really did like I thought 80 was really good, and I felt like playing off of where it turned out that Kyle Mooney and Amy Schumer really were sort of like the straight people, even though they were sort of like doing this cheesy porn film dialogue, that they were sort of playing it straight, whereas 80 was the one sort of like bouncing off of them and like asking questions like, wait, hold on, there's I heard you say there's going to be an oral exam.
Right. Or like when Amy said, like, he got a 68. Now I'll show him how to get a 69. And 80's like, but a 69 is still a D plus. That's not very good. Like, great sort of straight manning the ridiculous premise to get big laughs. Although I even thought I thought Vanessa was great when Amy says, like, Ricky's about to go to FU, and she's like, Fordham University. Yeah. I went there. It's really well played, well balanced.
And then speaking of the endings, what did you think of the last line where A.D. Bryant talked about Kyle Mooney and talked about, he's good from far away, but up close, he's pretty busted.
Yeah, I like that. That really made me laugh. I thought an interesting sort of play on a common take of female porn actresses. So a fun little dig, I thought.
Okay. And then we go to our commercial parody, which turns out to be sort of a PSA/commercial for guns. We're here to stay.
Yeah. I like this. I thought it was a nice little twist reveal, not a huge surprise. We know Amy Schumer sort of has taken up the cause about gun control. I thought that this was a very light touch at the subject of guns. I don't know if it was kid gloves or if they just decided to just take a very broad swipe that we all love our guns bring us together. So I don't know that this was a very cutting or insightful or damning thing. This more seemed like a fun, light sort of joke about guns.
Yeah, I felt like it probably wasn't out there enough. Like, it was like sort of like, okay, once you got the reveal that it was guns, I didn't find this to be particularly overly twisted or anything like that. I felt like I agree with that light touch sentiment in terms of where it went. So it just wasn't out there enough to be a huge laugh on this one.
Yeah, I mean, compared to last season when we had Dakota Johnson and we did the bit that was about, ISIS or Al Qaeda, that was just like super edgy and hilarious. Like, oh my God, they just did this. This was like, oh, it was cute. And they all, Bobby Moynihan giving the little baby his very first gun and going, oh, you got your hands up. I thought it was all a lot of very cute touches to this, but nothing that we're going to look back on and go, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. It's just sort of like, yeah, it was fine.
All right. Well, before we get to our weekend update, why don't we discuss what was going on with the weekend and bring in our musical correspondent. Here he is, the great editor of Exclaim magazine. Here is James Keith. James, how are you?
Good, guys. How are you?
Very good. James, did you enjoy the weekend?
I really did, and I've enjoyed a lovely weekend, the Blue Jays' performance so far aside. Yes. And also I enjoyed the weekend on Saturday Night Live.
Yes, very good.
I'm going to need a lot of explaining on this one, James. I'm very lost, so I don't understand anything about what Well, first of all, the guy, his hair, I think it was like Sebastian the Crab from The Little Mermaid as a hairpiece, and I'm very lost. So just walk me through it.
I really thought this was one of the ones that I was not going to have to provide a lot of context, because the weekend now has enjoyed 2 straight #1 hits on the Billboard charts, including The Hills, which was the first song. I can't explain the hair. He's had that hair for a long time. He did last year when he came on and did a duet with Ariana Grande. And so, it's a signature look at this point. It's not a temporary experiment, but no, I can't explain it.
Okay. And The Weeknd is a guy, not the band. That's what I was
one
taking
person,
away.
yes.
Okay, got it.
Abel Tesfaye is his name, and he's from Toronto, so
Ah.
up there representing the six.
There you go. All right. So, what do you think of the first song that The Weeknd performed?
So it's The Hills, and it is, in fact, the current Billboard #1 hit in the America. And very timely, actually, because just yesterday he dropped 2 new remixes of this song, one featuring Eminem and the other featuring Nicki Minaj.
Oh,
and so that's that. She does not actually have a verse on the original version of the song, but they had just dropped this remix yesterday, and so that's why she was there to do essentially to promote, to re-promote a song that everybody's already heard, and to go and buy a new version of it. And I thought it was great. I thought both of them were really good. The Weeknd, for a long time has been very reclusive. He wouldn't perform live for a long time. He very, very rarely gives interviews. And so I sort of have this idea that he's kind of cripplingly shy. And I thought he was really relaxed, and they were smiling and having a good time. And I thought it was a really, really strong performance. He seemed to have gotten over any of his nerves. And of course, it's a terrific song. And I thought Nicki, it was just a great surprise to see her pop on, and she's having quite a last few months as well. So,
Rich, were you surprised they didn't do more with Nicki Minaj being there?
I think probably I wasn't super surprised because it wasn't her time to shine. I feel like she's actually, even though it seems like her personality is very over the top, my sense of her in real life is that she's very practical and pragmatic. So I'm not surprised. I will say I knew the song a little bit. I didn't really. I was listening to the Nicki Minaj lyrics, and I was like, oh my, this is on TV. This is like premium cable. Like, this is racier than some of the shows that I watch on HBO. Oh my sensitive ears. What's going on here?
Yeah, because they didn't use Nicki Minaj in a bunch of the sketches the last time she was the musical guest. So I was a little surprised. Well,
as the musical guest, I could see that, but I wasn't surprised that sort of just to do a drop on that she wasn't, but very, very interesting. And before we get to the next song, I wanted to say, I don't know if you guys noticed, very interesting from a show perspective. The Weeknd does his song, and then it's presented to you by Apple Music, and then we immediately go to a commercial for Apple Music featuring The Weeknd and the song we just heard. I thought, there's a lot of financial synergy going on here. That must have been very well coordinated by SNL, by Broadway Video Enterprises.
Very good.
I don't know. We don't get those commercials up here, so I didn't see that.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Well, James, then what about then the second song, Can't Feel My Face? Probably, is that the bigger of these two songs from The Weeknd, or the one that at least has been around longer?
Yeah, it was the first #1 from the new record. And I would say it's the song that just from the number of people that I know whose like 4-year-olds are singing it, and it's certainly much more ubiquitous as the hit of the summer. I would say they probably would have done it first if not for Nicki Minaj being there, but they were, they clearly said, well, we have her, we're going to swap them out, and it's the current #1. So, they're going to put her first, obviously. But I thought this was a terrific performance as well. Even just to do such a Michael Jackson indebted song, and to do it with essentially, the band was way at the back, so he's essentially alone on stage, and then to dance to that song when, he's a fine dancer, but he's not Michael Jackson. So, I thought it was just a kind of a brave spot, and really said something about his confidence as a performer, that he was just fully able to just take the stage alone and really own it, and move around and really enjoy himself, and it sounded really good. So it was more of an indicator of a big leap that he's made as a performer in the last 18 months than and the new record's terrific, so I wasn't surprised about that, but I thought the performances were both of them were really confident and strong.
James, I'd love to get some sort of like rating system or review so I could put context into where you think every performer lands from the musical perspective from SNL from week to week.
Okay.
Can you work on a system? 5 out of 10, a letter grade? A percentage?
Whatever. Just
Earbuds?
off the top of my head, I would say this is a 4 out of 5 earbuds performance.
Wow. For both songs or as a total ensemble?
I would say as a total, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are we counting sets of earbuds or individual per earbud? So I get my context around the rating system.
I think you can only they have to come in pairs.
Okay.
Just
Got
one
it.
earbud
earbuds out of 5.
Weird.
Okay. Yeah.
4
All right. Well,
pairs out of 5.
thank you so much. Who's coming up next week with Tracy Morgan?
Demi Lovato
is
the musical guest. So I will have to Google who Demi Lovato is and get back to you.
Okay. Well, good luck with that. All right, James, thank you so much. You can follow James on Twitter @exclaimeditor, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Happy Canadian Thanksgiving, whatever that
guys.
supposedly is.
Well done. Okay. Take care, James. Bye. Okay. All right, Rich, let's get into the weekend update. That's WEEKEND update, and talk about where we were this week. And boy, lot of talk about the Biebs and his member in Weekend Update this week.
Yes, well, we had a lot of sort of chunks this time. Instead of one-off jokes, we had a lot of, we had a whole gun control piece. We had a little bit of a run on Bieber. We had a little bit of a run on, the Senate, the House of Congress House of Representatives coming up with a new speaker.
Banger.
Yeah, so we had a lot of sort of runs between, both Colin doing some runs, Michael doing some runs, and then together them doing some pieces. I would say I feel like I'm excited to say I really feel like Colin's finally come into his own. It took us a little bit to get there. How could it not? And I'm excited to see Michael have that same evolution. I just don't think we've seen it yet. I think the chemistry between Jost and Che seems like off camera it's very strong. They seem to have a real friendship, but I don't know that it is yet translated to a good banter rhythm yet. So I'm hoping that as the season goes on, the rhythm of their co-banter continues to grow and evolve.
Is it working for you that they're a bit of a yin and a yang between where they paint Jost as sort of the elitist from at least from an economic perspective when they go to him on basically they do a couple of jokes where they sort of go back and forth between the two of them. They do it a lot with race as well between the two of them. Is that working for you?
I don't know that it's working as well as I would like it to. Like during the gun control, Che says something and then they cut to Colin and he's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to cut to me." And Michael was like, "Oh no, yeah, I was supposed." Like the rhythm of it isn't quite there. And there was also a bit in the gun control when Colin was like, "I mean, we're not the ones to talk. I mean, I don't have a gun. He doesn't have a gun." Well, you do. I think we're still finding it. I think we're in the zip code, but we haven't found the street address just yet. So we're going to get there, but I don't think we're there yet. If other people like it, I support it 100%.
Okay. We had some interesting guests here, and we had Jay Farrow doing a new character, I believe. I don't think we've seen him before.
Yes, this was a new character.
Solomon. Was Solomon working for you?
I mean, I liked it as a character. I really like seeing Jay Farrow do a character versus an impression. So I liked the character. I didn't personally get who this was supposed to be. So for me, I was more just kind of like going along with it to go, okay, well, I like the rhythm of the writing and I like the sort of the, they're turning off my air, not my air conditioning, my air. And then, oh, I don't have a sister. So it was an interesting piece. Overall, I don't know that I got it necessarily. I don't know if you're 23 and working in New York City, that this is a guy that we all know. I don't, if we do. I'd love to hear from the chat room. I certainly don't know who this guy is. But it was funny. I don't know that I'm dying to see it again.
I thought this was kind of tough.
Yeah,
I thought this was a bit rough for a character. I was into it at first, but I felt like it was just going on, and I was out on this pretty quickly.
Yeah, I know Rajizi just said in the chat room, I found Jay's character to be a lot like Keenan's Willie character. As much as I've never been a fan of Willie, at least I get who that's supposed to be. And Solomon, I didn't quite even get what we were going for, although I like the performance better than the Willie performance. So maybe in rewriting the character, the actual caricature that Jay was doing was funny. So I could see us landing on something over time. My preference would probably be not to see this guy again, but we'll see.
All right. Then what about the return of Mrs. Santini, the Kate McKinnon neighbor of Colin Jost?
I love Frida Santina. We saw her last year, midway through the season when Kevin Hart hosted in January. I just think she's very funny. I don't think this was as funny as the first time, but I'm sort of splitting hairs. I thought this is a great performance, great between the two of them. The notes always make me laugh. The first note was about a screaming baby. I liked when she said, "I'm so sorry, your baby is a car alarm." That really made me laugh. Then with the smoke alarm with the guys who smoke weed, when she started with the dear cast of the movie Friday, "I'm so sorry that your apartment is Bonnaroo." And then later on when she said, "Thanks for making my apartment smell like Adam Derwitz's hair." I thought that was very funny. Yeah. And I also, what I like about this is that, and we think we talked about this last year, in between the sort of gag of the note, we had a lot of funny little runs. Like she reveals that she's a teacher. She says, I teach my monkey to steal in the street. And we have a nice little run about how yesterday the monkey stole a 2011 Ford Festiva. Just all really funny stuff. So not as funny as last year, a couple of misses here and there. But overall, I was very happy to see Miss Santini back.
I like the intro to the first note that she wrote, "Dear parents of Damien." That's good. I also like that, like after she finishes each one, she's like, "That's a good note. That's a good note."
I even think that they're trying to brand her a little more because it seemed, and I get it, very deliberate. Like, that's a nice note. That's a nice note. That's it. Right. Like to the audience, like, right, get it, right. We're making this a thing, right? So I thought it was very funny. I always makes me laugh.
She wrote 2 notes, Rich. Does that strike you as one got cut?
Yes, I absolutely think one got cut for time.
Okay. So anything else from Weekend Update? We had the bit where we cut to the weekend for the Weekend Update.
Yeah, cute. Yeah, I thought I'm looking at my nothing else all that interesting.
Okay, so now in the post-update section, we did the sketch about the Lincoln play. And again, this was a very wacky very wacky segment, which really allowed Amy Schumer to shine, I felt.
Yeah, this was performance. This was not obviously a well written. It also didn't make a ton of sense. There was never a premise as to why Amy Schumer's character is ad-libbing the Lincoln assassination every time. I really liked Mike Bloom's note, our friend of the show, Mr. Bloom, who was like, basically they did the exact same thing each beat with the unconventional reaction, but they never heightened it or they never evolved it, which I thought was true. To do it the 3 times without it sort of evolving got to be a little long in the tooth, but Amy was very funny. Great straight manning from Taryn. It was cute.
Yeah, I did like all of the talk about her work on the BK set. I thought that was
Yes.
good. And I really like that the John Wilkes Booth character became that he was lusting after Mary Todd, and he became increasingly more of a pervert each time. And there's that horny John Wilkes Booth. He's trying to get with me and get in my pants. I really did enjoy all of that.
Yeah, I did like our note from AC Mazzaro on Twitter this afternoon, who said, "Would that sketch have been improved if the John Wilkes Booth character had embraced the improv the 3rd time around?" And I thought, yes, exactly. It's kind of what it needed. Is let's do something. Let's take this somewhere crazy that wasn't the same rhythm. So, but definitely cute.
Yeah, but Keenan was a funny straight man also in that one. All right, let's talk about Times Square and the hands-free selfie stick.
Yeah, this I thought was a one-note joke. Things up your butt, I guess, are funny. It was fine. It was not. There wasn't much to go once we established that we're shoving it up our butt. Then it was sort of the same joke over and over again. It's okay. It was fine for me. What did you think?
Yeah, I feel like once you got the big reveal, then if that didn't kill you, then I feel like there wasn't much further to go with that.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Scott in the chat room wants to know, how did they get Central Park so empty?
The power of permitting, as opposed to the lazy Sunday pieces and the digital shorts. I'm sure if you're involving Amy Schumer, you are getting a permit from the city of New York and shutting it down. So New Yorkers, you want to enjoy a nice Saturday in New York, go F yourself. We're shooting a sketch about selfie sticks up our butt.
Okay. Well, maybe going to get that permit was the inspiration for the community forum meeting, where we got to see cycling through a bunch of characters in a small town. I'm not sure if we got the name of the town, but
I don't remember if we did. Yeah.
yes, Bakersfield. And we got to meet a bunch of people. And really, it was like one of these things where we have this a lot on SNL, where it's like, whether it's like a wedding and people getting up to give a toast, it's just sort of like a showcase for everybody playing these sort of wacky characters. I was a little disappointed that there was less sort of callbacks to things that we had already established before, but it was sort of, definitely had its moments.
Yeah, I thought good performances, good little pieces. I thought because there was no sort of overarching sort of theme to it, it didn't build on itself. It just felt like a slideshow of, and here's our next character, cha-chunk, and here's our next character, cha-chunk. The only showing of Leslie Jones for someone who had such a strong week one really was a background character in week two. So yeah, I thought this was fine. I think as the reviewer on Hitflix said, which I thought was absolutely dead on, this was a pale comparison to some of the town hall scenes from Parks and Recreation, which were some of my favorite, that built so nicely, sort of crazy upon crazy upon crazy. This was not that. But everyone did a nice job. Good character from Amy Schumer. I'm guessing the Amy Schumer character of sort of the sort of child probably came first, and they started to build around it as a way to get the character. That's my guess.
Yeah. Again, more talk about the Beebs as well.
Yes.
Then we also ended up with our last sketch of the night, which was a rather long 12:50 sketch. I feel like that usually these are a little bit shorter. We had the baby shower and the missing purse.
I loved this sketch. This is exactly what I want at 12:55. I mean, it's a bait and switch sketch because it starts out where we're setting up that Vanessa Bayer is the crazy person. She doesn't know how pregnant she is. She doesn't trust doctors. She's just winging it. So, okay, it's going to be about a weird pregnancy. And then Jesse shows up, the best friend of Cecily Strong, whose character's name is never said. And I got to tell you, I went to high school with this woman, Jessie. I've been at bars with this woman, Jessie. Anyone from Long Island knows Jessie. And I just thought this was a very funny sketch. Great performance. Really fun. And at the point when Cecily Strong is breaking down in tears and describing all of the things in her purse, we were rolling in laughter. I just thought this was hilarious.
Yeah. And the stuff that was in the purse, starts out I think the first thing was my parents' information.
My parents' address and information, my passport, and then my UTI medicine and my heartburn pills.
Yes.
My phone charger and something like my NARS.
Yes. Which I Googled what that was also.
Yeah, I also had to Google to find out about NARS. This was just her performance in that. And then, and Amy's, you wouldn't even say straight man, as a sort of peas in a pod crazy person, sort of just reacting with everyone else around her. When Kate McKinnon is the normal person, your character is at 11. So I thought she was just very, very fun. They both were very funny together. Great sort of payoff. It was all really fun.
Ultimately, they find the purse at the end, and then it's sort of like try to go back to normal after that. Amy Schumer wants to use the upstairs bathroom.
Yes, I love that. I love that she wanted to use the upstairs bathroom. So all very funny. Great way to end the show. Really fun.
Okay, so then Rich, watching on the East Coast feed, the goodbyes were cut very short. What did you take away from the goodbyes on the West Coast version?
Well, the West Coast version was equally extremely short, although I went back and watched them on Hulu because there is no bigger SNL nerd than me, and I wanted to see them. Great, genuine excitement and affection from Amy Schumer. As soon as she says the sort of official goodnights, and obviously to Nikki and to The Weeknd, she then gives a huge bear hug to Vanessa Bayer. They're like, it almost seemed like they were tearing up. It was really sweet. And then she gave a big bear hug to Kate McKinnon. And I sort of felt like, and it turns out she then is basically thanking all of the women on the show, including Leslie Jones, who she had no scenes with, and then says goodbye to the men as well and thanks them. But I thought very indicative of what this episode, Amy Schumer's show has a lot of really interesting writing from sort of a feminist perspective without hitting you over the head. This show was not that, but this show was all about the woman of SNL. I mean, we really talked about Taran Killam as a minor character in the airplane sketch, and how many men have we mentioned since then? Of note, this was really a show about the women of SNL. It was Vanessa, it was Adie, it was somebody playing Kate. Really being front and center for the entire show as far as sketches goes, and they seem to all have a really good time. So everyone seemed to be in good spirits, including Beck Bennett, who got no screen time this week, was not on the show, but still seemed to be in good spirits.
Well, it's such a big cast. Also, I mean, in the baby shower sketch, Sashir Zamata was there. I was like, oh yeah, it's Sashir Zamata. She's on the show too. I forgot about her. I mean,
she's very small this week. Yeah.
It's very hard to service everybody, and this was a night I felt like there were not a ton of sketches either. So I felt like it's really going to be tricky this season for people to get their share of airtime.
Yeah, I mean, 17 people. I mean, that's a lot. You divide it by, we talk about, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 live sketch, or eight comedic sketches taking out Weekend Update. 17 people. John Rudinsky is not going to get a frame of airtime this night. Jay Farrow, even Keenan was in a number of sketches, but he was sitting in an airline seat at the beginning. He was the tour guide in Ford's movie theater. He did not have any big lines. It's just, that's how this is going to roll. You're going to see, now next week, you're going to see a lot of Keenan. You're going to see a lot of Leslie Jones. You're going to see a lot of Sashir Zamata. They're going to be, and I think that they know that this is going to be a big, big episode for them. So I'm very looking forward to it.
Okay. Scott in the chat wants to know, does the host get a lot of say into the skits, or is it related to their comedy reputation?
Oh, no, the host, absolutely. I mean, the host is in the room with Lorne Michaels when they're deciding what's going to make it on air and what's not going to make it on air. A host absolutely can kill a sketch. I've heard talk that Lorne is very persuasive, and he's very good at convincing hosts to do sketches that they don't think are going to kill, that Lorne knows are. But the host is very, very involved. If a host does not like a sketch after the table read, it's very hard to get it through. And if a host doesn't want to do a sketch, it is almost certainly going to get killed. And also, as we know through the 40 years, if a host doesn't like a sketch, they can just phone in the performance in the dress rehearsal, which will result in a mediocre reaction from the audience, which will result in, Steve Higgins and Lorne and gang cutting the sketch because it didn't kill. So not that they're necessarily saying, I want to be with this person, I want to be with that person, but they have a lot to say about this, definitely.
Okay, Coach's Beard in the chat wants to know, do they need to cut some people from the cast? Did you agree with the decision to bring everybody back from last season and then add another featured player?
This is a hard one. We've always talked about that. If I was the corporate monolith looking down without taking people's feelings aside, we should definitely pare the cast down just based on numbers. The problem becomes if you say, okay, Rich, who do you cut? And I don't know. I mean, maybe this is a better way to go in the short term, where you have a younger person on, like we had Miley Cyrus. You sort of feature some people. You have a strong woman. You feature some other people. You have an alumni. You feature other people. I think it's harder to build a sort of momentum of cast members and great characters. So I think you got to cut. I think that they're waiting for people to leave. I don't know who I would cut though, because I love everybody.
Matter other than for nerds like us that are talking about like, oh, who got the most screen time? I mean, if you were just trying to ultimately have the best show every week, does it matter? Does it affect the quality in any way to have a cast of 17 people?
Well, here's where I think it does. I think when you take out the nerds like us, if you said to my sister in Hop Hog, name 3 people on SNL, she would go, I don't know. I don't know that I could name one. And I think when you have 17 people don't shine. Maybe Kate McKinnon gets remembered. You know, I think that if you want to get sort of I don't want to say marketing, but if you want to get momentum, you have to have a smaller cast of characters that we're seeing all the time, that we're remembering. So I think it is hard. Yeah, I think it doesn't affect the quality of the show. I think it affects the quality of sort of the promotion of the show, and the show in sort of the I think this era will be forgotten by non-SNL nerds 7 years from now, because there were too many people and we couldn't get our heads around, oh, that was that cast that we all remember.
Okay. Rich, anything else from the Amy Schumer episode?
No, a lot of fun, really good stuff. You know, I don't know that there's any sketch that I think we'll be talking about at the end of the year, but I was quite amused for 90 minutes, and that's all I can ask.
Okay. Next week, Tracy Morgan comes back. Do you want to call any shots for something that we do or do not see for Tracy Morgan next week?
I think we'll see a lot of cameos. I mean, if we don't see Brian Fellows, that seems insane to me that we won't have a Brian Fellows. As we saw Tracy on the Emmys at that time, given the horrendous accident he was in, I think he unless he gets a lot stronger in his ability to perform since that time. I think that it is going to be more about a salute to a comedian that we all love, that almost died and didn't and can be here. I don't know that we're going to be able to lean on the crazy comedy of Tracy Morgan that we all knew back before this accident. So I think it's going to be, I think we'll see Tina Fey. I think we might see Bill Hader. I think we'll see Amy Poehler. I think we'll see a lot of his friends come back to support him and just sort of and build around him as opposed to things. In the chat room, we're saying 30 Rock. Yes, I think Alec Baldwin's a great call. I think we could absolutely see Alec Baldwin there. So yeah, I think it's going to be more about how much we love him more than Tracy himself making us laugh with comic timing.
How many times has Tracy Morgan hosted SNL? I'm looking back. I see he hosted in 2009. Has he hosted another time since then or before?
I don't think so.
Probably not. He probably left like in the mid 2000s, and then I think 30 Rock started in 2006.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. If he's. He probably did guest. I'm going to take a look as we speak. You're right. 2009. Yeah, it was only 2009 was the only time he hosted.
Okay, and it seems like he did do Brian Fellows at that point in time in 2009. So it's interesting. Astronaut Jones. You think that's there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
no, I don't think so.
I'm trying to think of other Tracy Morgan. Who was the guy that used to live in the sewer that kissed Britney Spears?
Yes, I can't remember. I don't think, again, I'm hoping I'm wrong, of course, and I'm not saying this. I'm not trying to take any shots at Tracy Morgan. I'm concerned about his health, and his recovery. So I don't know that we're going to see him anchoring a lot of sketches. I think we're going to see him around. And so that's why I don't know, other than I think they'll want to do Brian Fellows as his sort of signature piece. I think we're not going to see him anchor that much. Again, I would love to be wrong and see him really make a real great physical recovery and do something great. But whatever it is, I'm just excited for.
No Dominican Lou?
I don't think so. I don't think we'll see that. We'll see.
Okay. All right. So we will see exactly what happens next week. Tina Fey, yes or no?
I think we'll see Tina Fey. Yes, absolutely.
All right, so good stuff. Looking forward to that next week. I've got a Dominic birthday party next Sunday, so we'll have to figure out a little bit of the logistics of when we're going to record next Sunday. But you and I can figure that out offline. Thanks everybody. Thank you to everybody who watched the show live. Had a good turnout for the Amy Schumer episode. I think people were pretty excited about it.
Yes. I think it all worked out well. Everyone got what they came for.
All right.
Hopefully here as well.
All right. If you want to subscribe to our SNL podcast feed, our dedicated feed on post-show recaps, you can do that at postshowrecaps.com/SNL iTunes. Rich and I will be back next week to talk about everything. Rich, anything else?
No, excited for next week.
All right. So take care, everybody. Have a good week. Looking forward to hearing your comments on our website at postshowrecaps.com. And have a good one. Take care, everybody.